It's funny because you had a post yesterday that I analyzed and I noticed this and I was like, oh, she's good. She's really good.
I love that. Which one was it? The what I would do to set myself up if I was taking time off?
No, but I liked that one. It was about the economy and you were talking about recent shifts and just how you've generally seen a slow, you've been in business for what, 7, 8 years, almost 7 years. And so you've been in business before the COVID rush of people who created businesses in 2020 and kind of like randomly took pivots. And not that that's a bad thing, but you've just seen huge changes in buying behavior, right? Like people just aren't buying as many things. And then you artfully transitioned into how copywriting sets you apart and how it's so important, especially in this economic climate.
Yes, the art of the sale. What's so fun though is that wasn't planned. Like you get good enough at sales psychology, you get comfortable enough figuring out how to do that you're in the middle of telling a story and then you realize like, wow, I can make this connection. And because it's so natural for you, it feels natural to the person listening. Because there's nothing worse than listening to somebody and feeling a little bamboozled by the pitch. Like you're like, oh my God, here I thought I was, or when you catch on too soon, like when you're I can tell like she's going to sell me. So I love that. I love that you notice that. Ooh, I'm being analyzed.
Welcome to Side Note, the podcast, where we explore the intersection of business and intuition. I'm your host, Samantha Fackler, a Fortune 100 marketing advisor turned leadership coach who has worked with over 100 companies across 13 years and counting. And yes, I also keep crystals on my desk. I love astrology, and I'm a trained Reiki master. So I see the connections that other people miss. Join me for conversations that'll change how you think about business, life, and everything in between. If you don't know Kaili Meyer, you should. She is a sales copywriter, but more than that, she is one of those people that when you meet, especially as a business owner, you're like, oh, you get business. Like you have a legitimate background where you have operated in the business space as a professional. And it's so refreshing for me to meet these other business owners where I'm like, okay, you had a career and then you noticed a gap. You wanted to do something that felt more aligned. You did it. And now you've been really successful at it for not just a year, not just a couple years since COVID, but 7 years. So she's been a copywriter for 7 years, helping all different kinds of businesses. And I know from my background and being more of a creative writer, how difficult copywriting really is. Because it's like you're juggling 10 different plates in the air. Like you're learning someone's business, you're learning their brand and tone of voice, you're creating messaging that's speaking directly to their audience, you're doing it in a way based on psychology, based on how people make decisions, especially decisions that have pressure involved, like money, time, investment. So I just really loved her energy and her perspective because I think more founders need to work with people like Kaili Meyer. But really just like, look at these business principles that are not going anywhere. Like we talk a lot about psychology, we talk about the economy because they're always here. They're not going anywhere. Our brains are, wired in a certain way, and they're always going to be wired in that way because we are human and we're not yes, we evolve, but we don't evolve that much. Today's episode, we really get into a lot of cool topics, not just like how to write a good sales page. We talk about, how people are making buying decisions now in this economy when things are a little bit uncertain, when there seems to be like a whiplash effect happening in the news and with politics. We talk about, how people are making investment decisions and unexpected opportunities in a market that's a bit uncertain. So there is so much good stuff in this episode. I can't wait for you to hear it. No, we have the queen, Kaili Meyer, owner of Reveal Studio Co., sales and web copywriter. Kaili, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
So excited to have you. When I was thinking about bringing you on and all the different territory that we can cover, it's like economy, journalism, thought leadership, copywriting. You really cover so much ground. So for our listeners, could you give us just a brief intro of who you are?
Yes. So, hi guys, I'm Kaili Meyer. I am the founder of Reveal Studio Co. Reveal is a sales and web copywriting studio. We primarily work with female-led brands in the online space, a little e-com, some service providers. And on top of that, like you said, I'm very much interested in things like sales psychology, the economy, understanding everything that's at work to help people better sell whatever they're selling. So I have a very interesting background, I would say. I went to school for journalism and psychology, worked in the magazine industry, then worked as a thought capital writer in the institutional investment industry, which is like left field, what's going on here. Fell in love with finance. I loved it, but it wasn't like scratching that creative itch. So 7 years ago, I actually founded Reveal, and now I spend the majority of my time writing websites, sales pages, developing products to help other people be able to write their own copy, utilize AI, all sorts of fun things. So I'm very excited to see what we get into.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when I stumbled upon you, I think the differentiator that I spotted immediately was I've never seen a copywriter who has that sales psychology background. And really what I've learned from following you and everything that you share with the world is that your copy should be working for you. It's not just supposed to sound good and fit with your brand. It's supposed to make sure that people convert. So I'm curious, like, and a lot of these women entrepreneurs are just writing their own sales pages. Like, what should they be what should be in their mind as they draft this kind of copy?
That is such a big question. I mean, a gajillion things. Number one, I feel like people get a little bit confused with the idea of being simple and concise, and they think it always means fewer words, when really it just means say the thing you want to say in a way that your audience resonates with and understands. But on the side of that, we don't want to lose our personality. So a big mistake I see people making is they have this incredible brand and personality on socials. They feel very safe and excited and inspired to like show up as they are. And then they start writing sales copy and it's like they put a corporate hat on, or all of a sudden it sounds like they're like writing a book report and they're wondering, why isn't it selling? Well, our brands, I like to talk about the marketing ecosystem or the sales ecosystem where there's a million different moving parts, but they're all working together. And if your social is a huge top of funnel thing for you, that's where people are finding you. They are going to want to continue to see that and feel those same vibes in your sales copy. And if they don't, actually what it's telling the brain is like something is off here. It's building a little bit of distrust. And the second that your consumer like isn't quite sure if they can trust you, it's going to be really hard to get them to spend money on us. So I would say try to find a balance between, yes, being concise, being powerful, utilizing sales strategies, but don't lose yourself and your personality in the process.
Yeah, I find that most people lack a strategy. Like they're not thinking about the end audience.
No.
The words that the audience is using, not just their words. Mirroring, yeah, it's really hard to find that middle ground between your personality and then how the copy should be working for you.
100%. Yeah. It's tricky. What I tell people is trying to do it yourself is a really great option if that's like where you're at budget wise or time wise, or you just don't even, whatever reason you have. But if you have the funds available to invest in at least a template or a really good copywriter, I just would. It's 100% worth it. Writing sales pages for yourself or copy for yourself even, it's very difficult. I think a lot of people struggle with it. And the thing that I hear a lot is like, well, I love writing. I'm a good writer. It's just such a different skill. You can be an incredible writer. Like maybe you aced English. Maybe you actually were an English major, or maybe you are a creative writer. It's a completely different thing figuring out how to fuse psychology with really good writing to write copy that sells. And I wouldn't beat yourself up if you're struggling to do that. A lot of people can't do that. That's why people like me exist.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I've written like some copy in the past, but copywriting is such an art and a skill, and it's worth the investment, right? You sometimes can't read the label when you're inside the bottle. You need someone to read and write it for you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Good analogy.
I'm curious to get into the psychological triggers specifically. I think the word psychology, whenever people hear it, it's like, oh, wait, tell me more. Like, tell me how my brain works. What are some psychological triggers that most people don't know of?
Question. Well, let's just set the scene really quick. So there's two parts of your brain. Well, there's a lot of parts of your brain, but we're going to talk about two primary parts. So there's your primal brain, which developed first, and your primal brain is completely subconscious. It keeps you alive. So it makes really quick decisions. It's actually where our intuition lives. So it keeps us breathing, keeps our digestion going, is always scanning to make sure we're safe, is, high alert, but you can't access it. And then we have the new brain, which is where conscious thought happens. So we can do math, we can spell, we can talk to ourselves. The problem that I see people making is that they think we need to persuade the new brain. They think the rational brain, which is the new brain, is the area of the brain that we need to get on board, when ultimately the primal brain is what makes the decision to purchase or not to purchase something before the new brain even knows it's an option. And so then, yes, we want to come back and validate that decision, but ultimately the idea of sales psychology or neural marketing, consumer psychology, is figuring out what is, like you were saying, triggering the primal brain to be excited about or feel safe making a purchasing decision. And then we want to follow it up with logic to tell the new brain or the rational brain, hey, this was actually a good choice. So there are, a million things. I call them strategies or principles, like the von Restorff. I honestly always think I'm saying that wrong, but that's what it looks like. It's called.
Wait, what is it? Von
Restorff, R-E-S-T, yeah, Restorff, R-F-F. I'm assuming it's a psychologist. But basically it means that if we are looking at a fun lamp, I just got it, looks like a mushroom, I love her. And if we're standing in an aisle and there's 10 lamps and there's a lamp that looks like a mushroom and then all the other lamps look like a lamp, the von Restorff effect basically says we will remember the mushroom lamp more than we will remember anything else. And so if you can, this is where I see a lot of people, I wouldn't say necessarily making a mistake, but when things become trendy, like brand colors, brand photo shoots, like when everyone's wearing blazer and a bra or blazer and nothing.
Yeah.
All neutrals. Everybody did that. So you're no longer standing out. You're not going to be remembered. But people wanted to be cool. They wanted to fit in. And it's actually not going to do what you think it is doing for your brand. Instead, you should go do a photo shoot based on just your own ideas, wearing outfits that people would associate with you or with the vibe of your brand, and it'll be remembered more. This can be applied to sales pages. This is why, let's say your color palette is behind me. We see this cream, blue, green palette, right? And I have a sales page with these colors. Maybe my CTA buttons should be orange, because it's going to be the thing that my eyes are immediately drawn to, because it's what looks like nothing else. So it looks different. And then there's common enemy. And people get this a little bit wrong.
Now let's talk about your website that you're currently cringing over. There are people dropping thousands of dollars on websites that don't convert, and there are people that are just DIYing it. I decided it's time for a change. It's time to share this wisdom with the masses and the solopreneurs out there, and anyone who's looking for, really a brand that works for them and helps them stand out. So on April 15th, I'm leading a free interactive workshop called How to Rebrand. This is not going to be a lecture where you zone out and secretly scroll Insta. It's very interactive. There will be practices. There will be clear takeaways for you so that you know, 1, if you need to rebrand, 2, which elements actually matter for you, and 3, how to approach it without wasting a ton of time or money. So get the link to save your spot in the show notes. Again, it's free, and come ready to work. I'll be right there with you, camera on, guiding you through step by step.
I think common enemy means you and I both have to hate the same person. Really, common enemy just means we are aligned with something we're frustrated with. So common enemy for working moms could be literally not having enough time in the day to take care of your home, take care of your kids, and take care of yourself. And so if I'm selling an offer to busy moms, I might reference how frustrating that is, which is doing a couple of things. It's a common enemy, obviously, but also picking at pain points, but in a less agitational way, because pain points had their day in the sun, I think, 2020 to 2022. It got rebranded as agitational marketing, and it basically was just tell people how much they suck without you, which is crazy. But we can highlight pain points. Attacked, yeah. We can highlight pain points in a much more professional, respectful manner through common enemy. Loss aversion is an incredible one to use. Loss aversion, the concept of this is that we as humans are more afraid of what we could lose, or we feel more compelled not to lose something then we are excited about gaining something else. So if you can highlight what they will be able to hold on to, so not lose, as opposed to what they'll be able to gain, that's great. But loss aversion also works in ways like, let's say you're on a website online shopping and all of a sudden it's like $9 away from free shipping. Even though it will still be cheaper to just pay the $6 in shipping, no one wants to lose out on the free shipping. So we add something to our, yeah. So those
are big. Those are really big. I mean, like the attack to like, I hear you, right? So instead of being like, I'm throwing daggers at you and the pain points, it's, hey, I totally hear you. I have the same thing. Let's do something about it. And then the loss aversion one, I feel like every makeup company for the like eons of time play on that one, because they're like, buy this much and then get this like gift.
Yes.
That's why I had like 7 Lancome makeup bags when I was like in high school.
Oh my gosh. Yes. Yeah. I know my mom, I don't know if your mom did this. Like my mom would go to like Dillard's or whatever, that Macy's. And then like the free bag was like my gift. Like she was like, I got this for you. I'm like, girlie, that was not good.
You got makeup for yourself.
You're like, let's be real.
I got a bag that I'm putting my Claire's lip like chopsticks in now.
Amazing.
Okay, well, those are all really good ones that are kind of that, psychological triggers. And I'm sure there are so many more. I feel like you're just a library of them busting out.
I love it. I just find it, I think it's so fun. I think what's so fun about it, but also as a business owner, fun's not the right word, like incredibly powerful and important to know, is that when we look in the online space, when we get on social media, everybody and their brother is like a sales coach or has some secret sales strategy. And I wish I could just shake everyone and be like, there are literal researchers all over the world analyzing the brain at a level with fMRIs and eye tracking that you and I will never be able to access or do unless we go back and work in a lab. They already literally know the science. So why are we all out here pretending like we're finding something new? No, everyone's brain works in a similar way because we are the same freaking species. And so the same areas of our brains are lighting up for the same reasons. Yes, are there different buyer types? So is loss aversion going to work on everyone? No, but it is triggering that area of the brain. And if we stack another strategy, we might be closer to getting that sale. And if you just learn sales psychology, you can kind of like block out the noise of these people who had one good year. They made okay 1 year and all of a sudden they're like, I'll teach you everything I know. And they're just going to reiterate to you the literal science that we all have access to. So the big tip I give people is like, just spend time learning about sales psychology and practicing it on socials, in email, in conversations, your web copy, your sales pages, wherever. You will start to see a natural shift to like, oh, wow, selling doesn't feel like selling. I don't have to think about it. I just go on my stories and my brain naturally like knows where I'm going to take the story. And then it works.
Yeah, absolutely. I used to get so nervous about sales because of the word sales. But when I realized it was just relationship building and some artful conversation, understanding the person, what is motivating to them, then it becomes a bit more relaxed. But I'm curious, what's one example of how people could practice using sales psychology in their everyday life?
Ooh, in their everyday life. Well, this is kind of like reverse practice. If you're streaming or you're on YouTube or you're able to pause after an ad, I tell people like pause after an ad and try to figure out the techniques or the strategies they used in the ad, or while you're scrolling, whatever catches your eye and makes you stop and be like, ooh, let me look into this. Like analyze what happened there. Like, why did I stop and scroll? Was it the colors? Was it the hook? If it was the hook, what was it about it? Did it use the number 3, which is like a really powerful number in sales psychology? Was it a rhetorical question, which is another great way to get the brain to stop, because naturally as humans, we need answers. And so when your hook is like a question or your subject line is a question, the curiosity gap effect says that like we have to figure out what the answer is. So if I make my subject line like, wait, did you see this? Or LMAO, has this ever happened to you? People need to click open, even if they don't care. Their brain is not going to let them get away from that page without being like, what happened to her? Like, I don't know if it happened to me. I need to know what happened. So doing that in ads or practicing, like a great way to practice that is subject lines and then seeing how they impact your open rates. I mean, there's a million ways to practice, but those are 2 that I think are fun.
Yeah, I like that. I was recently watching a YouTube ad, Katherine Heigl. I don't know if you've seen this one, but she is advertising, I think Farmer's Dog or something
Oh
similar.
yeah.
But it starts out with her and like it's her face. So immediately you're like, a star. Like I know who she is. What's she talking about? And then she's talking about dog food, which is random.
Yeah.
But she specifically talks about like the shitty ingredients of kibble and things that happen to dogs when they eat kibble. And as a dog owner, I'm like, wait, I feed my dog kibble. So then I'm like, what's happening? And then I'm hooked because I'm like, I feel like she's telling me information that I don't know.
Yeah. And also you want to not be that dog owner.
Right. I want to take care of my dog. Love my dog. And then they start
like, oh my God, my dog could lose a whole year of their life if I.
Right. If I'm giving them this kibble that I've already researched and like done a lot of work.
Yeah. No, it's already been approved. Like yeah.
So, okay, I love that. So analyze some ads, start practicing, start noticing numbers, questions. Okay, this is a big one. I've been noticing this. I've been reading some sales pages recently just for research. And there is a moment where you feel it in your gut and you're like, I need this thing. And it's like this decision moment. How do you, I guess from your view, like what is happening there?
I think that's like a fantastic question. I don't know the exact answer to that, but my assumption would be the two parts of your brain are syncing up and this is totally an assumption. Some scientists listen to this like, ma'am, that's actually not what's happening. It has a name. But what I would assume is happening is your primal brain has made the decision already. And in that moment, your rational brain is going, yeah, for sure. Like this is the right choice. And you're just in alignment, like you're syncing up. The two parts of your brain are like, okay, I'm in. Or just the right trigger happened and the type of buyer you are, like if you're somebody who, really needs to see a lot of social proof and great testimonials, but you kind of are a little skeptical of the ones that are basically just like fangirling, like, I just love everything Sam does. Maybe it's that you read one that was like very specific and mentioned the exact benefit you're looking for. But even then, I would say truly probably what that's doing then is exactly what I started with, which is satisfying both parts of your brain.
Yeah, that makes sense. Because they're the true fans, like you said, the girlies that are like obsessed. So they might have that click much earlier on in the page.
They like get on the page.
Yeah, they go immediately to cart.
Yeah. They're like, where did I sign up? Those are my favorite people.
Yeah, and those are great. I mean, those are what power our business is, right? There's the 1,000 true fans concept, which is if you have 1,000 true fans, a true fan is someone who buys anything and everything that you put out. If they pay $100 a year, you have a 6-figure business. And then you can grow your fan base or you can, play with other price points, whatever. But then there are the people that are just browsing. They're just getting to know you. And those are the people that you really want to nurture and bring in. And so it's interesting to see like, okay, maybe they convert at the social proof or they convert when you start talking about the features, meaning that more logical brain is being turned on. I've used things like Hotjar to track this to see when people are clicking, but is there any other way that people can understand like what is the most motivating thing on their sales page?
I think Hotjar is probably, or something like Hotjar. I mean, there's obviously A/B testing, like you can take some sections out and see how that goes. What's difficult is this is why there are entire neural labs tracking this stuff, is because since the decisions are being made in the primal brain and we can't access that because it's subconscious, let's say you have 100 people read your sales page and then you interview them afterward. At what point did you decide? The answer they're giving you is highly likely not actually what was happening.
Yeah.
It's what they have access to. It's when their rational brain got on board. So that makes it difficult. That's why they do like the fMRI scans, the functional MRI scans, so they could see literally what's going on when there's like high bursts of activity in certain parts of the brain. Sales psychology is so nuanced. You'll hear me talk about the VMPC a lot, which is just the ventral medial prefrontal cortex. It's a part of the brain that stores associations and emotions with people, places, and things. I'm sure it does a gajillion other things. The brain is insane. But basically what the VMPC does in terms of branding is, let's say you give off very feel-good, fun emotions whenever somebody engages with your brand. So every time you drop a video or an email or something, they just always get this like little high, like they just feel good about themselves. Even though you're not selling anything to them, the VMPC is storing these positive emotions and these positive associations. And so when you do go to sell something, the brain goes like, we like this brand. We like this person. This is a safe person. This is a good choice. And they might not even actually need what you're selling, but their VMPC is so stocked full of positive associations that they're going to go ahead and do a deposit back into you. So this is why I tell people whenever someone's like, how do I sell more? How do I get more comfortable with selling? I like to remind people you're always selling. You are always establishing an association one way or the other with somebody else, with your consumers or your potential consumers. And so every time you post, it can do one of two things. It can kind of scare you because you're like, oh my God, I need to care about every post. It's like, no, it's not that serious. But it's also a little bit like, takes the pressure off to get on and like do a good sales post, because it's like, listen, you've been working toward the sale for a long time. As long as you have been showing up in the way that you want to show up and igniting the emotions that you are genuinely trying to ignite, you're going to be fine.
Yeah. It's funny because you had a post yesterday that I analyzed and I noticed this and I was like, oh, she's good. She's really good.
I love that. Which one was it? The what I would do to set myself up if I was taking time off?
No, but I liked that one. It was about the economy. And you were talking about recent shifts and just how you've generally seen a slow, you've been in business for what, 7 years, almost 7 years. And so you've been in business before the COVID rush of people who created businesses in 2020 and kind of like randomly took pivots. And not that that's a bad thing, but you've just seen huge changes in buying behavior, right? The other side of this. And you notice like a huge surge 2020 to 2022, 22 to 24, it slows down and people are starting to panic. Or at least last year, I saw this too with some of my clients. They're like, people just aren't buying as many things. I have friends who are like luxury travel advisors saying the exact same thing. And then you artfully transitioned into how copywriting sets you apart and how it's so important, especially in this economic climate.
Right. Yes. The art of the sale. What's so fun though is that wasn't planned. Like you get good enough at sales psychology, you get comfortable enough figuring out how to do that, that you're in the middle of telling a story and then you realize like, wow, I can make this connection. And because it's so natural for you, it feels natural to the person listening. Because there's nothing worse than listening to somebody and feeling a little bamboozled by the pitch. Like you're like, oh my God, here I thought I was, or when you catch on too soon, like when you're I can tell like she's going to sell me. So I love that. I love that you notice that. Ooh, I'm being analyzed.
Well, it was so subtle that I felt that decision point in me being like, oh, I should really be looking at my copywriting again. And then I realized, oh, let's back up a second. Because I've been analyzing like lots of ads and things recently. So, and that wasn't even an ad. It was so natural. It was natural thought leadership that opened a window of opportunity.
I love that. Get that on a shirt.
But actually, it's a good segue because I do want to talk about the economy and how it affects business owners. I think, like, what are you seeing in terms of buying behavior right now?
I think, like you were saying, across the board, industry-wise, we're seeing a bit of a slowdown. I call it clutching our pearls. I mean, let's just back up here. So 2020 hit. A lot of times they're in a relationship. There's an entrepreneur and there's the stable, secure person who has the 9 to 5, right? Great pairing, except 2020 hit and all of a sudden, like nobody had a secure job. Like people were getting laid off left and right. It didn't matter at what, level of business you were in corporate, like layoffs were happening. And so then all of a sudden we're having, even worse, if you were like a stay-at-home wife or mom and your partner gets laid off and now everyone is scrambling to make money. So that's where we saw that influx of all of a sudden a ton of people wanted to start their own businesses because they realized, wait a second, maybe a 9 to 5 isn't safer. Maybe this has been a myth that's been fed to me. So that was really great for people in my business or in the web design or strategy, because if you're creating a brand, you should have a website. And if you've never built a website, you should hire an expert, or even if you have. So we saw that, but then there was just so much money in the online economy at that time. And so I think we were in a bit of a bubble where all of my friends who didn't have their own businesses were like down bad. And I was like, yo, I'm having the best friggin' business. Like I am thriving. And so that was really interesting, but it was just, I think it's funny because it's just like money being passed back and forth, right? And so then we saw a return to the workplace, and here in the States in 2022, 2023, that's wrong. Oh my God, is it 2025?
Yeah.
No.
Welcome, Kaili. It's 25.
So 2023, 2024, we continue to just see things like not getting a ton better from a consumer's perception. So if we looked at the actual economic data, we looked at the jobs report, we looked at earnings reports, we looked at unemployment rate, things in the States were actually improving. We were actually in a better place than we had been in previous years. But because everybody had been trying to catch up on the previous years and things like loan pausing went away and we were no longer getting any money, no government funding to make up for what was happening, people felt like things were still really bad, so nobody was buying. Well, then obviously we had a really important election at the end of the year, and that then created, again, uncertainty. What's happening? And when things feel uncertain, we stop spending money on non-necessary items and services. And so anybody who isn't necessary, you have a course on how to post better reels on Instagram. That's not necessary. That's nice. And maybe back when everybody was joining the online space and had never created a reel before, it did feel necessary. Now, not so much. So we saw people no longer spending money on those things and also spending money differently. So in 2020 to 2022, 2023, really high ticket courses and masterminds were, having their day in the sun. People didn't blink an eye.
It was huge.
Huge. And now we saw last year, I would say, lower to mid ticket digital products and shorter trainings and things like that were becoming more popular. People were spending money on that. But the issue we saw was if you joined the online space and created this signature course, and that signature course paid your bills, and you got used to, well, I'm just a course creator, that's what I do, and you were unwilling to pivot and meet your consumers where they were at by creating a new offer at a new price point, you're going to tank and you're going to be frustrated and you're going to be searching for, well, the problem must be my messaging. The problem must be my sales strategies. No, the problem is consumers are spending money differently. They don't have $3,000 to throw around like freaking confetti. They have to pay their rent, not their mortgage, because nobody can afford a house. They have to pay their rent, or they have to pay. Have you seen car payments? Like, I bought my car and paid my car off in 2022. Thank freaking goodness, because I have so many friends and family members who are trying to buy cars right now. And now we're dealing with things like tariffs. We're dealing with things like massive issues with trade, and countries are like acting. It's just wild. And so I am going to be fascinated to watch 2025 play out. I said this on my stories yesterday. I think the ones you're referencing. This is going to be kind of a put your money where your mouth is as a business owner moment of like, are you a business owner or did you get really good at one thing? And if you can't sell that, you're screwed. This is a time where it's like, you need to be creative. You need to be willing to look at the data. You need to be willing to take a risk. And you have to, like I said, put your money where your mouth is and prove that you are more than a course creator, a content creator. You can't provide something people want and need and can afford today.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's the strategy. Like if you don't have a strategy for where you're going and what you're doing, then you're guessing and you're just continuing a hobby that happened to be profitable. And I think coming back to the point that you said, like people need to still buy things. It's not like the economy is just going to move to a screeching halt, but people are going to buy what's necessary. So then how do you make what you do necessary? And how do you make sure that's necessary to the right people and you're speaking to them? And then now, of course, we're getting into strategy territory.
Right. And I think if you're listening to this and this is like stressing you out and you're like, I'm just going to get back on LinkedIn or Indeed to find another job. Maybe you're right. But also maybe you just haven't had to go through this yet. As a business owner in year 7, I've seen, like you were saying, I've seen like 4 of these moments in time. And you do. It is okay to have a mini meltdown. It is okay to be like, oh my God, maybe I'm not cut out for this. But then you need to like go figure out if you're cut out for it. Like you need to be willing to do the thing. Last year I developed the AI Copy Buddy and was one of the first copywriters to create a tool to utilize with AI. And it was terrifying because I knew there were going to be some people who were like very angry, shaking their fists at me. And there were. I got some DMs from copywriters, like they were not happy with me. But it performed really well, and it's been helping people. It is something that I get at least a DM a day from people all over the world that are like, I don't even know how I had my business without the AI copy buddy. And I'm like, no, you same. I pull mine out every freaking day. It can do so much for you. And that was a huge risk. I sat on that for a long time because I was like, do I want to be in the first wave with AI? Do I hate AI? Because I did. I was very anti AI. Like, we're not utilizing AI. And then I had to have a moment of like, okay, well, if we look at the data, the history of new technology, it takes about 50 years for it to be mass adopted. People thought that television was demonic. They did not want the television in their homes. Like, people were like, I'm not lazy. If I want to watch a movie, I can go to the movie theater. And that was the same thought process with AI. Like, I don't need AI. I can do it without it. And I realized, like, okay, I have a couple options here. And one of those options is to be somebody who teaches people how to use this well, ethically, optimize it, and make it a tool instead of a crutch. And it paid off for me. And there's going to be things that don't pay off for you. But once again, that is business. That's what makes you a business owner. And you have to be willing to try these things.
Yeah, the innovation piece is necessary, especially in times of uncertainty. And I get the people who are like, no, AI, especially as a writer or copywriter, completely understand. But it's like, you also have to keep up with what's relevant. Like, if you said like, oh, anti-internet, then you just got left behind in the dust.
Yeah.
Goodbye.
Brochures.
See you 6 feet under. Like, and I think there are unexpected growth opportunities in economic times like this. I think another thing people don't realize is like acquisitions. Like, actually, when there are economic downturns, a lot of people invest, like they double down because they take the money they do have and they say, okay, where am I going to put it where it matters? Because I know that's going to grow 10 times faster and more once the economy picks back up. Besides innovating and making sure you're on top of things and pushing things forward, what do you think are other unexpected growth opportunities when there's a downturn?
I think taking offers you already have and literally just repackaging them. It's not like complete, like let's say you have a 18 module course, okay? Put each module up in a library where I can build my own course. Let me now pick them. You didn't have to do anything new. You already had the videos, you already had the content. Put it up and let me create my own bundle. Okay, so this is like innovative in terms of format or delivery system, but it's not innovative in terms of content. You already had it. I think, I'm going to get nerdy for a minute. I think people forget that literally what you do with your money is also a revenue stream. So spending some time figuring out investing and personal finance and caring about where your money is literally being stored. If your money is in a traditional savings account, I implore you to rethink your situation and put it somewhere where it can be growing. And so what I tell people is like, when I look at my P&L, that's only part of my story. That's like reveals money. But then I get to look at all of my investments and the interest I'm gaining in my high yield savings accounts. And it's like a literal other salary. I didn't have to do anything. I just put the money in a different place and got paid for it. And so I think like stepping back and remembering, oh, I'm also a person. I don't have to like create new things. The other thing is I am not above this. Listen, when I started my business, I had 3 part-time jobs. And I do think we have lost a little bit of the like being willing to do what it takes energy. I think if you joined the online space and you saw people immediately being successful, you have it in your brain that like, yeah, I might have to work at it, but I should be making 6 figures by like 6 months in. And it's like, yo, that's crazy. I was doing beer marketing on the weekends, waitressing on the weekdays, and nannying twins while starting Reveal because you have to do what it takes. And so I think people need to be able to set the ego aside a little bit and be like, what do I need to do? And if that means like you go get yourself a barista job, girly pop, get on over to the coffee shop. It's fine. You need money just like everybody else working there needs money. So I think it's just looking at the bigger picture. I think it gets a little dangerous being like, well, what can we do in our businesses? Like, what can we create? That's difficult for me to give an answer to because it's going to be different for everybody. I don't want to be like digital products. And then now people are just creating crap digital products and popping them on Stan Store. I don't want to say like, start a community or a membership if you are not truly cut out to be a community leader. Like, there isn't a specific answer that can apply to everybody, but it's evaluating your skills, your needs, the bigger picture of your life, and then deciding how to move forward.
Yeah. Like knowing where's the money coming in, what is working, how do you lean into that strength? Look at what's not working. Don't ignore that. If you need extra money, get a part-time job. And I think also like get help where it matters. Don't try and just continue to figure it out if it's not working. And I see that a lot. And I also see people that just quite honestly aren't cut out to be an entrepreneur. And then sometimes it's time to find a job that feels more aligned, you know?
Yeah. And I do think we need to have more gentle but honest conversations about that. I think there's this idea that anybody can be anything. And to an extent, maybe being your own boss and running your own business, like, is a specific set of skills and passions and desires. And you have to be honest with yourself. Like, how willing to do the work are you? How willing to figure it out are you? And then there's the difference between like, oh, I'm a freelancer where all I do is I just write the copy, and now I'm a brand providing an experience. And there's often a huge disconnect because you might be a fun designer, but if you're not great at communication and experience and making it feel like something that was worth investing in, your business is likely going to fail. And so it's just being honest with yourself. Like, do I want to be my own boss, or do I just want to make a ton of money and not have to go to work?
Yeah.
Which one?
Yeah, big difference. This is coming up. I have one of my best friends. She had a really successful tech job at like a huge, well-known company, and she left and she was just like, I need something different. And she had kind of two streams. So one was real estate investing, which she's still involved with and was something that she wanted to do for years. The second one was a wedding company. So what she did is she created her own wedding vow books because she saw a gap in the market, kind of this mid-range, but like really high quality. Someone who got married and paid $30 for vow books that looked like papers stapled together. I was like, yeah, there's a need for that. And she created these beautiful vow books, like made the whole business, the websites launched, and then tariffs happened and basically killed half her business because she was like, I now need to get new suppliers. I need to rethink my pricing strategy, like rejig the whole thing. So then she got to this point where, you know what, I need to go back to work. And she got a job. She just started, but it's not a forever thing. So sometimes it's taking something, but knowing it's going to be temporary. And I think this is a good example of one of those.
Yeah. It's such a bummer. Yeah. I don't want to get political or anything, but it's a bummer.
Yeah. And it's one of those things where it's like, there's always going to be some outside circumstance that's going to create a little bit of chaos. So how do you swim with that?
It's also understanding that we're not in control of everything. But once again, that's where you get to like flex your business owner muscles. And I tell people all the time, nothing is actually a failure. Like, it's just a learning. Like I have a mentorship client who she's, launched this course and she hasn't made as many sales as she wanted to make. And she was like, what do you think's wrong? Like, I'm afraid. She basically said, like, I don't want to launch my next idea if this one fails, because like, who would I be? And I was like, that's insane. Do you know how many offers I've created that have been bought by 0 people? No, you don't, because I just moved the F on and created something new that then got snatched up by hundreds of people. But that is business. Like, there have been so many ideas that I've made them and I've been like, this is going to sell like hotcakes. I'm an innovator. I'm crickets. Nobody cares. And I'm like, I misread the room. But I don't sit there and wallow. I'm not like, I'm a failure. I'm not a failure. I just tried something and it didn't work. And now I'm going to try something else and it's going to work.
And you're a business owner. So it's not even like the world needs to know that it didn't work out. You just continue moving.
Yeah, I get to just never mention it again. Passive product power hours. Does anyone remember? No, you don't.
I know. I have a lunch coming up. I'm like so excited about and feel so good about. But, just.
We'll see. Check back.
Yeah. We'll check back in a couple months.
Please do. Let me know.
Well, okay. The last question here for you is like, do you have a hot take on marketing in general that you think the world needs to hear? Spicy. We're looking for like habanero extract.
People are more concerned with being a great marketer than they are at creating something worth marketing. I think way too many people are really comfortable selling things that are not actually worth their price, but they're great at building a brand and marketing. And so they feel fine about it. There's this idea of like, well, if somebody will buy it. And unfortunately, like most things being sold in the online space, once somebody buys it, they're not getting their money back. Like, this isn't Nike. I don't get to return my defective tennis shoes. But people are way more concerned with like, nobody wants to learn the skills to get really freaking good at the thing that they're going to be doing, but everybody wants to learn how to sell it. It's like, oh, that's icky. It's giving.
It's giving gross. It's also look at the core. Like the core of your business is not marketing. It's whatever you produce. And yeah, it's all about the light bulb moment. That's my thing with people is like, when do people light up with whatever you're offering them? And then center everything around that. Like that is the center of gravity. It's not what you're posting on social. Love that. We need that on a t-shirt too.
Yes. We'll have to shorten it.
Oh, well, Kaili, thank you so much for being here and sharing all your wisdom with our listeners. Where can they find you?
Thank you for having me. You can find me at revealstudio.co on Instagram or revealstudioco.com online. Please come find me. I'd love to be friends.
Yes. And she posts great reels. So don't forget to watch those.
Thank you. Talks. Have you been liking the TikTok? The lighting.
The lighting. Also,
The lighting. I know. I'm like taking FaceTime calls from my bathtub. I'm like, no, this is where I look best.
Also, no, she's clothed. She's clothed for
fully
the top
clothed.
talk.
Yeah, I know, fully clothed. But you know what? Hell yeah.
Yeah. I think you should reproduce like the Margot Robbie moment from Wolf of Wall Street when she did that.
Yes. Great idea. Write that down. So
Yeah, get on that. Okay, well, with that, thank you all for listening. Again, I'm Samantha Fackler, and this is the Side Note podcast, and we'll chat soon.